We move on to our next news. The Chinese Commerce Ministry has stated that the country is willing to explore the possibility of various trade and investment agreements with the European Union. Chinese Commerce Ministry spokesperson He Ya-dong has stated that both China and the EU share extensive common interests and have huge potential for cooperation. This statement follows remarks by Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, who told his Estonian counterpart that China is willing to sign a free trade agreement with the European Union. China has long shown willingness and has negotiated a free trade agreement with the EU. However, the negotiations have not resulted in any formal agreement. Trade relations are currently governed by the 1985 EU-China Trade and Cooperation Agreement and the 2020 Geographical Indications Agreement. The EU has expressed concerns over unfair Chinese trade practices and the evolving geopolitical tensions with China. However, China is optimistic for a trade deal. Let's in fact listen into what Chinese Commerce Ministry spokesperson has shared.
当前，中国正在推进高水平对外开放，主动对接国际高标准经贸规则，稳步扩大制度性开放。中欧在经贸领域有着广泛的共同利益和巨大的合作空间。中方愿同欧盟深化互利合作，探讨商谈包括投资协定在内的各类经贸协议的可能性，提高中欧贸易投资自由化、便利化水平。
Now for this discussion, we welcome Keith Vaz. He's a former UK minister, joins us live from Goa. Thank you very much, Keith, for joining us again. Good to see you. Keith, although we both know both sides, China and EU, share great common interest on trade, Europe seems hesitant to signing a renewed trade deal, while China seems very keen. What do you think, what obstacles might prevent EU from reaching a comprehensive trade deal with China?
Good afternoon, Asma. I think that the fact that the Chinese have decided to approach the EU and the EU is in dialogue with them concerning a trade deal tells us a great deal about the current situation regarding trade, which has been ushered in following the election of Donald Trump as the President of the United States. So I'm not surprised. I think that the EU have always wanted to do some kind of deal with the Chinese, and here is an opportunity for the biggest trading partner in the world to come together with the EU, which has 500 million people, and to strike a trade deal. So I'm not surprised. I think that some might try to put obstacles in the way, but by and large, people will try and make sure it's a success. And I hope that it will be a success, because it will only be in the interests of China and the EU because of the complete uncertainty that has been generated by what Donald Trump has been doing.
And how do geopolitical and tensions and concerns over unfair trade practices from EU's perspective shape EU's approach to economic engagement with China?
Well, the EU, of course, always has these standards, but there are many EU countries, as I recall from being the Minister for Europe for a number of years, there are some countries that look after certain special interests. The EU looks after its farmers. France looks after its farmers in particular. Germany looks after its winemakers. One of the difficulties for the UK was that we didn't really look after anybody. We wanted to be part of the EU and we wanted to be contributing to it. So there's always at the edges unfair practices within the EU. And of course they will point to this with China, but if China gives them a better deal than the United States, Asma, they will go with China. Why would they not wait? They need to make sure that this happens.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Keith, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we move on. In France, the government is calling on the European Union to take action against Chinese-founded e-commerce giant Shein following public uproar over the sale of childlike sex dolls on its French website. Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has stated that the European Commission must act and impose sanctions as it can no longer wait. Brussels has already been examining the fast fashion platform over risks linked to illegal products, but France now wants stronger measures. The country's junior minister for digital platforms, Anne Henaf, and Finance Minister Roland Lescure have sent a formal letter to the Commission, urging it to use all its powers to investigate Shein's practices. Lee Henaf has highlighted that platforms benefiting from the European market must respect its principles, declaring the era of impunity is over. Now we welcome back our guest, Keith Vaz. He's a former British minister, joins us live from Goa. Thank you very much, Keith, for joining us again. Keith, how do you think it's affecting Shein while it's opening its first store in France, Paris, as this scandal unfolds?
Well, I think that it is a matter of concern. There's no question. There is concern about what is going on. But the only way in which it can be dealt with is to look carefully at what happens as a result of the decision that's been taken. I think that it's right to flag this out. These are important matters. But until we see it, the story unfold, we don't know whether or not there can be any differences or any changes that are going to be required. So it's happening, it's concerning, everyone is going to be monitoring, and obviously people want to make sure that it is investigated very, very carefully.
Yes, indeed, and it is very upsetting that the e-commerce giant like Shein could be selling childlike sex dolls in their websites across the world, not just France in particular. It's just that the fact that French were the first to point it out. What responsibility do you think online marketplace like Shein have in ensuring that such products are not being sold and the products that they sell comply with ethical and legal standards?
I think what we need to do is have very careful regulation. Now that this has been pointed out, everyone needs to be very well aware of what is going on, and they should act accordingly. You obviously need to use the ultimate power, which is enforcement. But the point of having regulators is that the regulators are acting in a way that should ensure that something is positively happening about this.
How long do you think will it take for EU to or France to bring a regulator like that? And isn't it surprising that there is no regulator, or there was no regulator, that these kind of products were illegal products, such as the childlike sex dolls, was in a platform, in an e-commerce platform?
One regulator, 24 regulators. I prefer one setting a standard that people can follow. But there's no point in having a regulator unless there's enforcement powers. You can call countries and organizations out, but you need the power of sanction. And I think that is what people will be looking for.
Yes, indeed. With that, I would like to thank Keith Vaz for joining us as a former British minister from Goa. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. In Turkey, 6 prominent journalists have been summoned by police over their reporting on Istanbul's imprisoned opposition mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. Prosecutors in Istanbul say the journalists are being investigated for allegedly disseminating false information and aiding what they call the İmamoğlu criminal organization for profit. It remains unclear whether former charges have been filed. İmamoğlu, a leading figure in the main opposition Republican People's Party, has been in custody since March this year on corruption allegations, but he has yet to stand trial. His arrest earlier this year sparked protests in Turkey. Opposition leaders have condemned the move, calling it an attempt to intimidate the press. Police reportedly confiscated the journalists' phones during early morning visits to their homes. According to Reporters Without Borders, Turkey ranks 159th out of 180 countries in the 2025 Press Freedom Index. Now we move on to UK. London's Mayor Sadiq Khan has hailed Zohran Mamdani's victory in the New York City mayoral race as a fantastic win and congratulated New Yorkers for choosing Mamdani. Let's listen into what he has said.
Well, I want to congratulate Zohran for a fantastic win in New York. Congratulate Zohran's family, congratulate his team, and congratulate the city of New York. They've chosen, in a bitterly contested election, hope over fear, unity over division, and I'm already experiencing the ripples of hope and happiness coming from his victory.
The win will install Mamdani as the first Muslim mayor of the biggest U.S. city, New York, following in the steps of Khan, who became the first Muslim mayor of major Western capital when he won his first 3 election victories in the British capital in 2016. Meanwhile, Sadiq Khan has stated that London is similar to New York. Let's listen into what he has said.
London, like New York, is a city that is liberal, multicultural, progressive, and also incredibly successful. We are the antithesis of everything that Donald Trump is about. And you can see why President Donald Trump hates London, hates New York, and hates the fact that Londoners, like New Yorkers, have chosen hope over Donald Trump's vision of fear.
And that's a wrap on the NewsX Eurozone. Keep watching